Hi, and welcome to another video by Jimthecarguy. Today we have a Honda. We're going to be doing a diagnostic on the front end. There's a rattling noise in the front. It's a pretty clean-cut problem. I lifted it up, as you can see, and I'm going to show you what's going on with the wheel before I take the wheel off the car, and then I'm going to show you what's going on with it and how to repair it. But when you drive the vehicle, as you drive and you hit a pothole, or even just driving in a straight line, you could feel like a rattling in the front end. And when you're driving the car, this is also a clue too, and I'm sure most of you guys are going to pick this up right away. Driving the car, they hit a bump. When they hit a bump, the car tends to jump left, and then other times they're driving and it'll hit a bump and it'll jump to the right. So there's no rhyme or reason to always pulling left or always pulling right. Depending on what kind of a bump they hit, the car pulls in different directions. So let me bring you up front, and I'm going to show you what the problem is and how we're going to go about repairing it. All right. First thing we're going to take a look at is what the heck the noise is. You see, this is as you can see, there's quite a bit of play in the wheel. So let's take the wheel off, and we're going to get in there and we're going to find out what the problem is. Cover your ears. Let's bring it up there. I'll show you what it looks like. As you can see, this is the front end here. Now, a common problem with these is that these bushings down on the bottom on the control arms wear out, or the ball joints wear out, but that's not the case here. As you can see, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. See that movement there? What's happening is the inner, this is the outer tie rod end, this is the inner tie rod end. Oh, and as you can see, the boot is actually broken here too, so we're going to be changing the inner tie rod end as well as the boot here too at the same time. The outer tie rod end appears to be okay. Now, this movement is a normal movement. Up and down is not a normal movement. So in this case, we're not going to be changing the outer tie rod end because the customer wants to try to keep the cost down because it's an older vehicle, but we are going to be changing the inner, and we're going to go around, we're going to take a look at the other side too, because usually when one goes bad, the other goes bad too. So, all right, let me get set up, and we're going to get started on this, and we're going to take it apart, and we're going to wrap it up then. What we're going to do first is we're going to take out this tie rod on the end right here. We're going to take out that cotter pin, take that nut off. We're going to crack this nut loose on the inside right here. We're going to break this nut loose here, and we're just going to take it off one or two threads, and then we're going to rotate this away from that. So, all right, let's grab some tools and let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do, we have the car in neutral so we can turn this wheel. We're going to turn the wheel to the outside like this, and we're going to take that cotter pin right there out. Obviously, you just bend it up and you can pull it out. Sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. You just get it to move, and then you put the cutting pliers on it. You grip it with the cutting pliers and you push it out like this. If you try to pull it out the other way, you're going to wind up having a problem. So you just get the pliers under it and pull it right out. All right, well, we're going to shoot that nut off right there. Now, if you don't have an air gun, you can do it with a wrench, but I got the air gun, so that's what I'm going to use. All right. Now, before we take this out of here, we're going to break that loose right there. That's probably about an 18 or a 19 millimeter. It's a 19 millimeter. Now, a lot of times these are pretty tight. but you can just break it loose, just like that. Of course, penetrating oil always helps. Now that we have this loose right here, there's different ways of separating the tie rod end from the knuckle. You can get in here with a tool like this. It's a fork made to separate it. They have another one that goes on the bottom that gets it out like that. I don't do that. I'm going to show you what I do. I just take a hammer like this, and we tap it a couple times, and it comes right out. So you just take it here, and you hit it right there. And you see it just pops right up and out. Now, I want to point this out. Make sure you don't hit your rotor. Make sure you don't hit your backing plate. Only hitting the knuckle. Now, we're going to just move that a little bit. And as you can see, that's pretty loose. Now, before you take this tie rod end off, hold the inner and you rotate this tie rod end and you count how many revolutions you take it off. And that's how many we're going to put it back on, right? $18 revolutions. So we're just going to put it back on 18 times. We're going to turn it to put it back on. I'm going to write that number down because we are going to do the other side too, and that way no mistakes are made. Now by putting it on the same distance that you took it off, it's going to be relatively close so that you're able to get the wheel alignment. You can drive the car need be to get it done, or you know, until you have an opportunity. But count how many revolutions. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this boot off right here because obviously the boot is no good. And the way we're going to do that, let me see what it looks like in there first. Okay, I'll bring you in there. I'll show you what it looks like. Underneath the bottom here, you'll see better what I'm going to do. You see that clamp that's on there, that band clamp right there? I'm going to take a screwdriver and I'm going to cut that band clamp off, and then I'm going to pull the bellows out. So that's what I'm going to do. And you can see right here is where it was joined together. This is a not reusable band on here, so it is, you want to throw it away. I mean, obviously. All right, now that's going to be a little bit of a pain in the rear end because it's in a really tight spot in there. So I'm going to just try to get that clamp. Just going to pry it open. Just so I can get in there with the bigger screwdriver and get it off. Basically, you're just prying it just to open it up so that you can pull that boot off. And then the boot, you just twist it and pull it off like this. And then this is trash. And that band clamp, you can see all I did was just twist it open, and we're going to get rid of that too. Now, this is the outer tie rod end here. There is a special tool that I have to open that up, but there's a little water inside there too. If you don't have, let me see. All right, if you don't have the right tool to get in here, you can get in here with a very large wrench. like this, and you could break it loose. Actually, you know what? Let's give it a try. Okay, well, it came out a little easier than I thought. I'm surprised. I've never used a wrench on it because I have the tool for it. I'll show you what the tool looks like. Okay, this is the tool here. And what it basically does is it slides over the top like this, and you put a 1/2-inch drive ratchet here and you turn it off. And what they have is you have multiple size jaws that go over the top of it. And you just see which one fits the best, which would be that one. And then what you do is you open up the tool like that. You put this piece in here like that, and then you can take it off. Now, I just want to point this out. On this particular one, you can't slide it over the top. So at least I don't think you can. Let's just take a look. Yes, you can. This particular one, you have to put the clamp, you have to put the piece on like this, like that. You put this over the top like that, and you would get in here with a ratchet, and you would just turn it and take it off. As you can see, I loosened it up with that wrench, and I'm just doing it by hand now. It comes right out. And then this just comes off like that. And that's it. Okay? It just wears out. All right, now we're going to get the new part, and we're going to put it back together. And obviously I'm going to go do the other side. I'm waiting for the parts to get here now. So, all right, let me get started on the other side. When the parts get here, we'll come right back and we'll put this back together. Okay. Now, I got the new tie rod end. The inner I'm going to be changing. And I just want to point this out too. You'll see this piece here. This goes over the top, and as you can see, there's little tiny grooves inside there. This piece actually fits into those grooves right there and locks it in place, so that way it will not rotate. But what you do is you put it on right here. Now, I just want to point this out to you too, and this is very important. We'll get to this later on. You see how this has that little indented area right here and here? They're all even with where the nut gets tightened up on here. So we're just going to keep that in mind for now. We're just going to put this on there like that. Now, a lot of guys will probably argue with me about this here, but it's just my obsessive compulsive nature is that I want to make sure it's not going to come off. So I do use a little bit of Loctite on here. You don't have to. It pretty much locks in by itself, but the Loctite never hurts. It's not going to cause an issue. So, you know, I do put a little bit of Loctite on here. Not a lot, just a little bit, enough to hold it in place. Now what you do is you take this tie rod end, you put it on here, and you just turn it until you catch it in there. You'll feel it catch. Right? Then what you do is you reach in, you grab that washer in the back there, and where that washer has those flat little grooves on it, those flat little pieces that fit in here, we actually put that in to the rack and pinion. And we push it in there, like that. And now I just hold that in there and turn this in by hand as far as I can. And now it's the teeth where that little piece is stuck in the rack and pinion. All right, now what we do, if you have a wrench, you can get in there with the wrench. The replacements are a little bit different in size. I'm going to use the tool that I have for it. Goes over the top like this. And we take this, put it over the top like this, lock it in there, and then we're going to rotate it in. I'll turn it by hand as far as I can, and then I'll get on it with a ratchet. I just want to point out it is a 1/2 inch ratchet. And you'll feel when it's in all the way. And then what I normally do is just get in here and give it a little bit more, just to lock it in there. And then we can take our tool and remove it. And then you remember what we talked about, those little grooves underneath the bottom right there? That little flat area, and it's consistent with here. This is the flat part here, this is flat here and here. So what I normally do is get in here with a tool like this and just collapse it down just a little bit, and that'll keep it from rotating out. Not that it's going to come out, but that's just the way I do it. Same thing. Whatever, you can probably get it on 2 sides, and that's it. And now that's not going anywhere. Alright, I'll bring you in there, I'll show you. See? And that's a little hard to see, but that's what it looks like. It's flattened down now. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the new bellows, which unfortunately is not here yet. I'm going to set you back up here. The bellows is not here yet, but you have to take this nut off. All right, and now we're going to get that new bellows and we'll slide the bellows on there. So I'll come right back. Okay, now this is the boot kit that you get for it, and this is the clamp that goes on there like this. Now, to put this clamp on, there is a special tool that they make to put this clamp on there. It's like this. It goes over the top of the clamp like this, and it squeezes it and it tightens it up. That's the right way of doing it. But if you don't have that, you can get in here with a pair of cutting pliers like this, and once you have the boot in there all the way in and it's in a good spot, that's when you would take the pliers and you would crimp this down to hold it in place. Like I said, this is not the right way of doing it, but in the pinch you have to do it, you can. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put the clamp on here. We're going to put it over the top like this, and we're going to push it all the way in. But we are going to put a little bit of grease on here, just so it slides without any, without binding at all. And now what we're going to do is we're going to push the rack in, and then we're going to go into the bottom. We're going to get that on there. I'll show you this in just a minute. I'll bring you in here, I'll show you what it looks like. It is a pain in the rear end to get in there because it is a tight spot, but that's what it looks like. And now we're going to get in there with that tool and we're going to crimp it so that it's actually nice and tight. Now, like I said, that's the right tool. If you don't have that tool, you can get in there with just a regular pair of pliers too. All right, now the next thing we're going to do, we're just going to pull this out a little bit now. And the boot itself on the end here, there's a little tiny groove right here that this pops into, just like this. All right, now the outer part of the boot, it doesn't have a clamp. It comes with a zip tie. I don't like it, but that's the way it is, so nothing we can do about that. Okay. Nice and tight. We're just going to cut that little piece off right there. All right. And what we're going to do, we're going to screw that nut back on, the new nut that came with it. We'll screw it all the way back on. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do, I did talk to the customer, and even though there's nothing wrong with this, there's just it's old. Keep that thought, we'll come right back. Alright, I'm going to edit that part out. Alright, now you see this is a left and a right side. So this is the one side, the left side, it says L. And the other side is actually different, so we're going to, the customer elected to change the tie rod end because he doesn't want to have to worry about this later on. And this tie rod end is so cheap, it didn't really even pay not to change it. I think it was like $13 or something like that. All right, now, you remember on this side, how many? 18 turns. So we're going to make sure that we screw it back in the correct amount of times. It was 18, so we're going to put it back in the exact amount. All right, were you counting with me? All right. And what we do is we put this back in here. Push it down. Screw our nut back on. Now, if you have an air gun, obviously you can use it. You want to be careful you don't damage it by going in too tight. So what I do is I just screw it in with my oh boy, one of them days today. I just screw it in as far as I can with the air gun, and now I'll just tighten it just by hand to make sure that it's tight enough. And now we're going to line up I'll show you actually. We're going to line up that hole right there to put our cotter pin into it. And you put your cotter pin through, and you bend it down, like that. And that's all set. Next thing we do is we just tighten up this nut right here. We grab a wrench. And then we're just going to snug this down. Okay, so this side is all done. All right, so let's get in there and I'll show you what we did one more time. All right, we put that boot on the inside and we put that clamp on and tightened it down. We tightened it up right here. We put our tie rod on. We turned it back on 18 revolutions. Put our cotter pin through here. Tightened the nut up over here. That's it. We're all done. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go around to the other side and we're going to repeat the process on the other side, and then we're going to get the wheel alignment reset. All right, that's pretty much it. Any questions or comments, you drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about anything. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.